it's down to their talent, but it's also, in Pep coaxing it out of them and finding just how good they actually are, with the coaching methods and the information that they're given, the detail. And as you've just said, the detail is in the pass, the weight of the pass, what side it is, the angle of the ball, whether it's rotating left to right or the curvature on the ball makes the next moment different. And that's the detail of Pep. And Gundogan. I mean, Bernardo Silva has different qualities to De Bruyne and Gundogan. And Gundogan has different qualities. They're all different in their ways, and they're not the same. Bernardo Silva carries the ball different to De Bruyne. It's just such a mixture of different qualities. And I was asked yesterday if, can Liverpool beat City? And I said, and this was in an interview before the game, if City are at their best, they can't be beat. And I believe that if they're like that against Bayern, at their very best, they will win. But, on a few occasions this year, more than in the last few seasons, we haven't been at our best. And when we haven't, we've been punished and we haven't got the result. And sometimes a bit of magic, something, out of the ordinary can get you through a game. And it's a few occasions this year and hence why there's that 8-point gap. But I believe that if they're at their best, they're unstoppable and nobody can live with them. And I thought yesterday, for large periods of the game, they were so, so good. And that no team on the planet could have stayed with them yesterday.
You're right to single out the differences in those players because they are all truly great individual players. And Grealish offers something completely different again on the other side. Mahrez has a certain tricks and magnificent abilities that he's got. But there is still something about the way that they play as a team. Because, you watch Newcastle, you watch United, and you think they have got individuals who can do things, but they don't play in a team like City do. Is that the difference?
Yeah, I think so. It's how they're encouraged to play. They dominate the ball. I think if you've got teams of equal quality, technically, I think it's a team who look after the ball the best will come out on top. And City do. They dominate the ball. Liverpool's power was their running. They covered the ground, and in their front three, they could go back to front with a different kind of problem. But if you haven't got that energy, then City will dominate you. And, and that was so evident yesterday. And, every team are trying to close the gap and become more possession-based to stay in the game and dominate the game. And but they're not getting, for me, they're not getting close to the way that City do it. They're, it has to come off the training ground to be as precise as it is. And the way it was yesterday with the role that John Stones played. And there's so much detail there, Ian. We could have a 2-hour tactical session here with a board, and I could show you why and where the problems that Liverpool have got with Gundogan and De Bruyne advanced in between the centre-halves and the fullbacks. So the fullbacks can't go wide and stop Mahrez, or they can't go wide and stop Grealish on their first touch. That's why when we play against a 5, it nullifies them wide men a little bit more because they can't receive the ball without being impacted. Where yesterday, those pockets that they find in between, the fullback has to tuck in to try and deal with De Bruyne in that pocket, which then you get the switch, which we did in the centre in the second half. You get that early switch out, and then you've got, there's so much detail. If it goes too early, then Jota is able to double up, or Henderson can get across. But if you can suck them into different areas, then when you do go long, they're one-on-one. And Mahrez running at you one-on-one. I fall off my seat 2 or 3 times a game just watching him, the drop of the shoulder and then the way he rolls the ball. It's phenomenal. And honestly, it's a science watching it. There's so much detail that goes in there. There's runs that you're doing not to get the ball, purely to move somebody, to create a passing line into somebody else. And, I think everyone is aspiring to try and get to that level. And when we see Pep pitch side, we know that we're still not there. The perfect. He spoke about it yesterday. We're talking about, can we win the title? That somebody asked him yesterday, and he just merely said that the players are doing. They're at the top of their game. That's all I want. Everything else will take care of itself, and it's great to see.
Just before I bring the other two in and we open up the debate a little bit more, you mentioned John Stones there. You were a centre back yourself. Can you imagine playing the role that John Stones does now. I mean, I certainly feel as if he's improved a lot in the last year or two, and now he's showing a completely different side of his game. That must blow your mind as a centre-back. That's not decrying you or your performances, but to see a centre-back do that is amazing, isn't it?
It is, but again, the information, all he is a pivot for one of the three to bounce a ball in, then to change the angle. So you'll never see him turn out and hit a 40-yard diagonal in behind. He won't slip somebody down the side like De Bruyne does. All he is to give a pivot so that they can go in, pull in somebody, suck a player in to create space behind and then move the ball again. And he just keeps the ball moving. He keeps the ball moving. He moves it left to right. He makes himself available. If he can get on the half turn, his next ball then is into one of the 10s. If he can't get on the half turn because he's marked, that means that one of their midfielders has been pulled out of a space. So there's other areas to play. And it's finely tuned, but Rodri's role is different to John Stones. We see when Rico was in there, you basically just give me a wall pass so that we can get out. And it's great. He's reinventing football again, continually reinventing, and the problems that the opposition managers are finding, because top coaches will find a solution to the problem, how to try and nullify. Again, I'll say it. I've not really looked at detail when we come up against the five, why that, where the problems are there, because they've got to find another solution, because their wing backs are locked onto our wide men, which basically nullifies them. So there's going to be space elsewhere, and they'll have worked on that. They'll have a preparation that if a team switched to a 5 or they went this way, okay, this is where the spaces are. This is where we can affect them in between the lines. This is your roles now, how they change. And yesterday, the way they went from left to right. So whenever Liverpool tried to compact the middle to stop them little balls in, then we got down the sides of them on the outside. Every time they split out to try and stop them balls, we then played through the middle of them in little pockets. And it was just like, it was an orchestra, a fine orchestra at play yesterday. And it was one of the best as a coach. Somebody who watches it was one of the finest games I've ever seen in how City did it and how they went about demolishing a good Liverpool team. It was magical.